a legendary master greatly takes the virginity of slaves, after which he falls in love with one of them. After getting married, he buys a slave fighter, not realizing that he is going to spank his wife in the same bed where he used to. Maddened by the truth, the slave owner decides to cook the traitor alive. Deep south of the United States, shortly before the start of the Civil War, the ramshackle Falconhurst plantation is run by a widower named Warren Maxwell and his son Hammond. The slave trader Brownlee comes to the farm to buy some hardy slaves. After meeting the buyer, Warren asks all the slaves to form a line, hoping for a good sale of those who can interest Brownlee. After carefully examining the men and testing their strength and agility, the slaver selects 3 dark-skinned slaves. He is willing to pay handsomely for them and accepts Warren's financial terms, assuming that these slaves will be hardy enough for the hellish working conditions on his plantation. Soon, Hammond returns to the farm and learns from the servants that one of the dark-skinned girls has fallen ill. The slave has a high fever, so she does not get out of bed and will probably lose her life. After learning that Big Pearl is a virgin, Warren and Brownlee suggest that the man solve this problem, assuming that this will help heal the dark-skinned beauty from the disease. In the evening, the men have dinner, and the slaver notices that the owner of the farm has problems with his legs. He suggests treating varicose veins and leg pain with the help of a small, dark-skinned boy. A little later, Lucrezia and the other servants help the girl wash up and add potassium permanganate to the bath, as the white master loves this fragrance. Hammond comes to the girl's bedroom and tries to be as gentle and delicate as possible with her. At the same time, the man does not forget that the Big Pearl is just a slave who will tolerate all his whims and wishes. The couple enjoys the time, after which Hammond returns to the house. On the way, he stops by the barn, hearing Agamemnon the butler say a prayer. Hammond scolds the slave for this, as they are forbidden to read and write. Moreover, they should not believe in God and pray. Back at the house, Hammond tells his father about what he saw, but he is more concerned about his bad legs. After learning about the butler's story, Warren recommends punishing him severely, using a whip as well as pepper and salt to sprinkle on the wounds, in order to cause as much pain and suffering as possible. After going to his bedroom, Hammond prays and then enjoys the time again with a slave girl to cure her of her illness. The next morning, the man orders Agamemnon to be stripped and tied up, hanging him by his legs. Choosing one of the servants, the white master orders the butler to be beaten, ignoring his screams, suffering, and pleas for help. As soon as Hammond leaves the barn, an unknown man breaks into the building. Grabbing a torture device, he begins to brutally beat the butler, believing that he deserves capital punishment. Hammond stops the stranger and learns that it is Charles, his cousin, who decided to visit the farm of relatives in order to ask them for financial assistance. Warren is ready to save Charles' family from poverty and promises to give money, but wants the investment to pay off. Charles has a hot little sister, and Warren thinks she could make a great wife for Hammond. A few days later, the cousins go to the farm of Mr. Wallace to see a live mandingo, a dark-skinned slave from Africa, characterized by strength and endurance. Mandingos are special slaves that can be excellent fighters, and are also suitable for producing offspring and selling them later. After meeting Wallace, Hammond and Charles learn that the last member of this species passed away because he was too old. The cousins have spent too much time on the road, so the owner of the farm offers them to spend the night at his estate and gives them 2 young and charming slave girls for the night. Charles is impudent and checks on one of the girls. After learning that she is still girl, the man takes the second slave and spanks her. Hammond is shocked by his behavior and mistreatment, but Charles considers this the norm. Since the slaves deserve all this and themselves agree to extreme cruelty on the part of the white master. Hammond meets the second slave and invites her to his bedroom, trying to show respect and sympathy. Modest Ellen is embarrassed, but is ready to obediently follow the man's orders, helping him take off his shoes. Noticing that the white gentleman is limping, the girl tries to talk to him and find out about the injury. Hammond admits that as a child, he fell from a horse, which led to a problem with his legs. He likes the attention of a girl, but he does not insist on enjoying the time. Ellen herself agrees to spend the night with a man, as she liked his respectful attitude. As a result, the couple locks themselves in the bedroom, and Hammond becomes the first man of Wallace's slave. The next morning, the cousins go to the market, hoping to find a slave worth buying. At some point, they notice that one of the merchants offers to pay attention to a young and strong man dingo. A rich woman decides to test the merits of a slave and puts her hand in his pants as she dreams of using him as a partner. She is willing to pay handsomely for the mandingo, but Hammond raises the price and wins the auction. The man is happy with his purchase, as his father has long dreamed of an African fighter. Hammond has no doubt that Meade will help earn money and make their farm famous with his victories in battles. A little later, Hammond goes to Charles and family home to meet his sister and his potential bride. Blanche is a young and charming blonde who dreams of running away from home. She is ready to marry the first person she meets, just to never see her abusive parents and Charles, who once took his own sister and clapped. After getting to know Hammond better, the girl agrees to become his wife and seals the contract with a brushing. Soon, the couple legitimizes their relationship and goes to the nearest hotel for a short but passionate honeymoon. The couple enjoys the time, but Hammond is disappointed as he realizes that he is not Blanche's first man. He wants to know the name of the person who took her honor, but the spouse ignores the questions, fearing the possible consequences. Having decided to relax a little, the man goes to the nearest brothel. The beauties of Madame Caroline pay attention to Hammond and are ready to provide him with services completely free of charge, but he is more interested in drinks, in which he can drown his grief. Meanwhile, Madame Caroline's butler spots Meade sitting in the garden. He tries to drive the slave away because he doesn't belong here, but this leads to conflict and a fight. Noticing what is happening, White does not stop the slaves, but looks at this show, betting on the winner. Meade knocks out Madame Caroline's butler, causing Hammond to win a decent amount of money. One of the respected spectators is ready to double the price for a slave, but the man refuses to sell it and offers to arrange a fight between their fighters in a few months. After returning to his wife, Hammond decides to go home, but on the way, he stops at Mr. Wallace's farm to buy Ellen. The man does not hide from his wife that this girl will not only be a slave, but also his mistress, which is very annoying to Blanche. After returning home, Hammond introduces his father and wife, after which he declares that he does not plan to go to bed with Blanche in the same bed, since she was not a girl at the time of the wedding night. Warren is inspired by the young and strong mandingo, so he wants to use it not only as a boxer, but also as a bull for breeding offspring. Meade's first victim is a slave named Pearl. Hammond points out that according to the documents, this is a brother and sister who were separated in childhood, but the plantation owner does not mind this. Sometime later, Hammond and Warren begin to prepare the foreign ministry for the championship match. To do this, the slave must bathe in hot salt water, which will make his skin rougher and harder. Blanche understands that her husband is moving away from her more and more, and turns into a drunk who regularly arranges scandals. Warren can't stand it and asks Hammond to make peace with his wife. Ignoring his father's demand, the man continues to avoid Blanche and spends the night in the slave's bed. Ellen reports the happy news, as she is expecting a child and asks to give her son freedom when he is of age. A couple of days later, it becomes known that several of Mr. Wallace's slaves have rioted and escaped. Cicero and several other men took the lives of 4 white men, so they need to be caught and punished. Meade and Hammond spot Cicero and chase him, but the slave manages to escape among the thick branches. The foreign ministry continues to pursue the fugitive, but he asks to be released so as not to feel guilty for the consequences of such an action. Mandingo allows Cicero to escape, but the whites capture him and publicly execute him. Sometime later, Hammond and Meade go to the rich man's farm to hold a slave duel. Blanche gets drunk again and asks to invite Ellen into the bedroom to beat her up. One of the slaves asks not to do anything stupid and accidentally informs that the mistress of the white master is expecting a child from him. Out of control, Hammond's wife brutally beats up Ellen. The servant tries to save the girl and help her escape, but Blanche chases the slave and pushes her down the stairs. Topaz and Meade meet in a ring where only one of them will survive. A fierce fight ensues, during which Meade is defeated as his opponent is more eager to win. Topaz scratches Meade's back and bites his legs, causing him to pass away. Seeing that the situation is getting out of hand, Hammond decides to throw in the white towel and give up to save Mandingo. Noticing this, the slave realizes that his master is not such a callous person as other whites. Summoning all his strength, Meade turns the outcome of the duel and wins, biting Topaz on the throat like a wild dog. The owner of the deceased slave offers even more money for Mandingo, but Hammond again refuses. Returning home, Warren learns that Ellen lost the baby to Blanche and asks Lucrezia not to tell his son about it. Hammond soon arrives and supports the slave by giving her ruby earrings. While building relations with his wife, he gives his wife a necklace with the same precious stones. Warren wants grandchildren, so he locks them in the bedroom to enjoy the time. In the evening, Hammond and Blanche are having dinner, when suddenly the girl notices Ellen's earrings and makes another scandal. During the argument, the wife confesses that her first man was Charles. Soon, the family arranges another sale of slaves, but Hammond does not allow the child to be given away. He leaves with Ellen, not as a slave, but as his own woman. Seeing this, Blanche demands to call Meade to the bedroom and threatens him. She would tell Hammond that the slave had taken her and had a very good time, in case they didn't enjoy the time. Having no choice, the boxer agrees and goes to bed with a white woman. Sometime later, Pearl gives birth a son from Meade, and everyone rejoices at the appearance of a new Mandingo. Blanche informs her husband that she is expecting a child. Ellen is nervous, but Hammond promises to be with only her, since he and Blanche have nothing in common, despite the fact that they are husband and wife. A few months later, Blanche gives birth to a boy. The doctor decides to untie the baby's navel to take its life, but Hammond sees the baby anyway, realizing that his father is definitely not him. Angry, Hammond asks the doctor to give him a bottle of poison for old slaves and horses. After mixing poison into his wife's drink, Hammond makes her to drink the contents of the glass and says goodbye to her once and for all. Taking a gun, he goes to the slaves and asks Meade to prepare a cauldron of hot water, after which he orders them to climb inside. The fighter refuses and tries to explain that he was the victim of blackmail, but Hammond does it, as a result of which Meade ends up in the cauldron. Agamemnon decides to protect Mandingo, but Warren insults the butler to provoke anger at himself. After attacking, the slave escapes, and Hammond helplessly kneels in front of his father's corpse. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. See you very soon.